Yo,
So, Fifi.
wait, I'm muting you guys. Mute all. Hey, you guys need to mute. Hold on. Why is that not working? Oh, there we go. Mute all. Okay. So,
Unmute.
hey, yo. I'm going to kick you then. You can watch the video.
This place kick us.
I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you this little presentation on Fables. There's 5 things that I want you guys to know about the Fables, and some of these you would have already known from looking at your the Fables last week. But we're going to go over the 5, and it's going to help you make your own. So the first thing is, like, what is a fable? And if you've done the slideshow, which I want you guys to do, you'll know that fables are like really short stories that are designed to pass on a message to the person reading it. And usually you call that a moral message. Well, what's a moral? A moral is something that's like right or wrong, right? It's kind of like a message that gets in the fables is usually trying to teach you something about right and wrong behavior. And fables are common around the world. I'm going to show you an example of an Māori fable, and they're often used to pass on some values, particularly for children. So that's why they're quite short, and possibly why they use animals. And it's often about teaching young people ways to behave in certain situations. So there's 5 features of the fable. Wow, is that like alliteration or what? So the first one is that they often have animal characters with human characteristics, and that's called personification. So it's an animal with a human characteristic. Often the characteristic is that they can talk. The second one is that they often have a setting. They even take place somewhere like in a forest, or in a woods, or by the beach, or on sea. They take place somewhere,
Right.
and there's some kind of a situation that's going on. The third one that they always have is that there's some kind of a problem, right? And usually that problem or a dilemma, it could be that the character's got some fault and they're like rude or something, and maybe that's what the fable is about, but not always. Sometimes it's actually, we're going to read one where there's actually a problem that someone's trying to solve themselves. So they have a problem or a dilemma. The fourth thing is that they always figure out how to fix it, right? The dilemma or the problem is resolved, and it's fixed up. And then finally, at the end of the story, they have this thing called the moral or the lesson, right? There's 5 things in mind. Animals with usually human characteristics, some kind of a setting where it takes place, and a problem. They fix the problem, and then there's a lesson. Okay, so here's a Māori one. I'm going to read you this, and it's like, guess what? I didn't even know we had fables in New Zealand, but we do. And this one comes from a tribe from up north called Ngāpuhi, tribe of Māori from Northland. And
That's Jimmy's tribe.
Yeah, man. Lots of people in like Waiheke and that are from Ngāpuhi. So here's one from Ngāpuhi, right? I'll read it out for you guys. The Ngāpuhi tell us that in the old days, a new canoe of a great size was carved, and preparations were made for the task of hauling the hull from the forest. Many men were called upon to assemble and take part in it, and the Mosquito and the Sandfly folk were also asked to assist. After the waka was hauled through the Ngāhere to the Moana, all the persons who took part in the strenuous hauling job were well fed, all but the Nairoa and the Namu folk, the Mosquito and Sandfly tribes. These groups received no water or food for their valuable services. Hence, they resolved to devote their energies to the assailing of mankind for all time. So that's the story. They asked the Sandfly and the Mosquito for help to get the canoe to the water. The Sandfly and the Mosquitoes helped, but then they didn't get the kai at the end of it. And so, in order to pay people back, they bit them and they attacked men for the rest of the time. So that's kind of like a Māori fable. And the moral of that story is probably like, manakitanga. You need to, if people help you out, you need to give something in return, kind of like an utu thing. Okay, so here's another one. This is one from Aesop's Fables. It's one of my favorite ones. It's called The Crow and the Pitcher. And the pitcher is like a jug of water. So if you can imagine like a jug of water, probably about as big as the crow. So it goes like this. In a spell of dry weather, when the birds could find very little to drink, a thirsty crow found a pitcher with a little water in it. But the pitcher was high and had a narrow neck, and no matter how he tried, the crow could not reach the water. The poor thing felt as if he must die of thirst. Then an idea came to him. Picking up some small pebbles, he dropped them into the pitcher one by one. With each pebble, the water rose a little higher, until at last it was near enough so he could drink. Right, and then the moral of this one, or the lesson, is that in a pinch, a good use of your wits may help us out, right? So like basically it's a lesson to like, okay, if you're stuck, think about the problem in a different way and see if you can figure it out. Now I'm going to show you the 5 elements that are in this fable. The first one is that the first line, in a spell of dry weather, when the bird could find very little to drink, a crow found a pitcher with a little water in it. So there's the setting and the situation. The setting is that it's dry weather. And the situation is that there's not that much water around. And there's a crow that's found some water in a jug. The second line, but the pitcher was high and had a narrow neck, and no matter how he tried, the crow could not reach the water. The poor thing felt as if he must die of thirst. That's the problem. The problem that he's got to solve now is, how's he going to get the water out? Because he can't get his head down in there to get it out. The next line, then an idea came to him. Well, remember how one of the features of the fable was that the animals are usually take on human characteristics, personification. And in this case, they say an idea came to him. So we have a thinking crow, right? Which is kind of something we would associate with humans. So that's the personification. And picking up some small pebbles, he dropped them into the pitcher one by one. With each pebble, the water rose a little higher until at last it was near enough so he could drink. And here it is. The problem has been resolved. He solved the problem by putting the pebbles in it. And that, people, ta-da, is the moral or the lesson of the crow and the pitcher. So let me stop now. Here we go. Okay.